Greetings, everyone. Greetings and good morning. This is Pastor E.L. Branch of E.L. Branch Ministries, and I am excited about this morning and just anxious to get going with this amazing experience on this Saturday morning as we talk about ministry. We talk about ministry, and I'm just looking forward to it. And we're giving a few moments now as others get on because we want to make the best of this experience and want everyone who can be a part of this to join us, in this time of sharing on ministry. And so I want those who are on and those who hear my voice, to help us out, by reaching out to some others and making sure that they too know about this experience. We're going to be talking with Minister Yarnell Waller. Yarnell Waller, he is an amazing man of God, and we just want to begin this ministry conversation with him, even though we will be talking to him personally about his individual experiences. Ministry is about all of us, and we are going to attempt to broaden this topic enough so that all of us are able to get something out of it. So let's look forward to what's coming up in the next hour, and we want you involved, and we want you to reach out so that some others are involved as well. And so we're grateful now. Minister April Rogers is on, and Lisa Goss, Mr. Lisa Goss is on, and also we have Katie Hunter on, and Deborah Jones Carpenter's on. And so we just want to continue, inviting as well as welcoming others as we go forward. I'm going to introduce our guest in just a moment. First, I'll have a word of prayer, and then I'm going to introduce our special guest for this ministry talk this morning, so that we could get going. Because hey, it's about ministry. It's about the work of God. It's about really hearing what God has for all of us. And so, hey, as others are getting on, let's have a word of prayer, and then we will introduce our special guests. God, we are grateful for your love and mercy. Thank you for this wonderful day. And God, we appreciate your amazing grace, your tender mercies in our lives. And so, God, now as we engage in this ministry conversation, I pray your blessings upon us. Bless our special guest, Minister Yarnell Waller. Bless his family. Bless his entire surroundings, oh God. And I pray that even as we share together, those who are signing on and those who will benefit from this experience will indeed be blessed by you. God, I pray that you would guide us now and allow our words to be inspiration to those who shall be watching and listening. This is our prayer. We ask it all in Jesus' name. Amen. I am extremely honored to welcome the Reverend Yarnell Waller. He is a man of God who is a special blessing. And while I could share a lot about him in the introduction, I'm going to hold much of that because those of you who don't know him, you will get to know him in this hour. And I want you to hear some of that from him. So please receive at this time my very special guest, a dear friend, man of God, Minister Yarnell Waller.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. And how are you today?
I am doing good, sir. And how are
Hey, I'm doing wonderful. And I just must tell you how honored I am to have you as a guest today, sharing in the El Branch Ministries and in this ministry conversation. And as I shared with our listeners, that ministry is about all of us, and anyone who lives in this world whose lives have been touched by the hand of God can understand the conversation about ministry. And then specifically those who are ministers who are called, who have a specific call of God to the gospel ministry, this is about them as well. And so I really appreciate you and appreciate you sharing with us on today. So how are you and how are you feeling?
I am here on today. And let me just first of all just thank you for allowing me to come on today and giving me this opportunity to share my testimony with others. I don't take it lightly, sir. So I really want to let you know that I appreciate you.
Oh, okay. I am extremely honored. And so now, why don't we start off by asking you to share with us something about yourself that you want those watching, those listening, to know about you.
Well, first off, I would like them to know that I am saved and I do love the Lord with all my heart. And I just didn't get saved yesterday, but I think I was saved when I was in my mother's stomach.
Yeah. All right. All right.
On fire for the Lord.
All right. All right. On fire for the Lord. That is very, very important. And of course, I can appreciate the fact that you want people to know that you are saved, that you are saved by the power of God. Now, tell us a little bit about your background and your family and your system of support.
Well, I have um an awesome and amazing mother um who had me at a very, very, very early age. And so she was always very tough with me in a sense, if I may say, to where she didn't allow to allow challenges in my life. She didn't allow me to have a pity party. And so, with all the different challenges that I had to face, she always taught me that, hey, you can't stay here. You gotta pick yourself up somewhere. And so, with that being said, I had a really strong, family support system. Because with her being strong, everybody else just followed along and just said, hey, since she's like a baby, we're not either. So I've always had a really big, strong support.
All right. Well, that's absolutely great. Tell us about your church life.
Wow, my church life. I've been going to church. Oh my God, since I can't even put an age on it. Since I've been brought here, I can remember my auntie started taking me to church, and long story short, and I would be so anxious to go, so excited when I would go, as the preachers would preach, and I would hear the shouting, and I would hear the screaming. I would be so afraid and so terrified to the point I'd be shaking almost out of my chair. Not that I was happy, but I was afraid of all that loud noise and what was going on. Not to realize that years down the line, years later, that I would be shouting, that I would be singing, that I would be praising God, not realizing that that was God getting me prepared for the things that He was going to take me to. Because I'm telling you, Dr. Branch, I was terrified. I was
Well,
afraid. You know how it is when people are shouting and they're dancing. And I'm a little boy at this time. I don't know, what's going on.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's. I think it was James Cleveland that wrote a song about Christians, and he said that he used to laugh at Christians, and he said, "Now look, I'm one of them today." He said, "Now I'm one of them today," and he said, "Now I'm listening to you saying how you was terrified with the noise, and then now I think about how much noise you make."
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the way that you carry on. Well, I've heard so many stories, as I'm sure you have, about people who have ran from their call to ministry, ran from the call of God in their lives. Tell us about how you responded to God's calling on your life.
Well, I always knew that I was called, always. But there was a sense of embarrassment, if I may say, because I struggled with reading. And so I'm like, okay, I know that I'm called to this ministry, but I'm cognitively impaired. And so I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. So I ran away from it for years and years and years and just focused on singing and just constantly just focused on singing. And it took the year of 2016 that I was at my kitchen table and the Lord spoke to me. He said, why do you keep running away from me? I called you to preach. And I said, God, you know, I got all these reading problems. You know, I got all these other issues that's stopping me from preaching. And I don't want to be embarrassed with that. And he told me, he said, "Get yourself a reading tutor." And I said, now, wait a minute, God, it's already embarrassing that I can't walk, you know, all these other issues. And he spoke to me again. He said, quit making excuses, do what I called you to do.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And so you say it was in 2016 that that the Lord said that to you. Then what did you do then?
The very, I wouldn't say the very next day, but a couple days later after that, I reached out to a very good friend of mine and I reached out to her and I just asked her, can you start, um, mentoring me and helping me with like certain things with reading? Because I knew how to read, but it was just a struggle. And so I began to ask her, like, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And so we would work together. And then I reached out to my pastor at the time and I told him, that I was called to preach, and I did my trials. The rest is history.
Yeah, all right, all right. Well, hey, I can identify with that, and I'm sure that many of those who are listening to us as well can identify with that whole thing of, having to be confronted by God a second time or a third time or whatever number it happened to be, saying, "Why are you not doing what I've called you to do?" We can relate very, very well, very, very well to that. So now, you were diagnosed with cerebral palsy, early in your life and all of that, and so you've been living with this quote unquote disability. Um, tell us more about that and how that impact your response to God's call on your life.
Well, I often tell people all the time, Dr. Brents, that I feel like God gave me this disability for a reason. While others may look at it and then they may think that it's a sad thing, I used to think that, but now I don't because I realize what He had to do with me. Um, he could have used me and I could have been walking and all that stuff. But who's to say that I would even stayed in church for as long as I did? You know how they say train up a child in the way that they should go on when they get older, that they shall not depart from it.
Yes, yes.
That is a very true statement. I have never left the church, even when I wanted to leave the church. I've never left the church. You know how when you raise, you take your kids to church, you raise them up in church. Well, with me, that was the other way around. I brought my mother to church. My aunt,
Wow.
my auntie and my grandmother brought me, and then I turn around as I get older and I brought my mother.
Wow.
So I really think that God gave me this particular disability for a reason, for me to be a living testimony to people, to just show them that, hey, No matter what you go through, no matter what you have, God can still use you no matter what. And so, yes, my disability has been very challenging. I'm not going to sit up here and act like it hasn't, because it has. I went through some very difficult things. Others, you know, like you can take your coat off regularly, right? You can take your coat off. You can take your shoes off. Problem. I had to go through challenges with that because my mother wanted me to be independent as possible, and so she would sit me at the door for hours when we would get home from work and school until I got that coat off. Now, some might say that that's torture, but today I'm able to take that coat off within a matter of minutes.
Hmm.
Today I'm able to take those off within a second. But that didn't happen overnight. I had to keep working at that. There were times I was told I couldn't go into the Boys and Girls Club because no one was there to assist me. So it's been a lot of different challenges that I had to go through throughout this disability, but yet God is still good and He's still faithful.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm committed to is, the liberation of oppressed people. That's a part of my mantra. That's a part of my personal mission statement. To remain engaged in the struggle to for justice and the liberation of all oppressed people. And often, when we think of that, we think about, racial issues. We think about gender issues and all of that. But often the thought of physical issues does not necessarily register in our minds. But here you are, a young man. That's that's one strike against you. Here you are, a young black man. That's two strikes against you. Here you are, a young black man from Detroit. I mean, the strikes keep going. You know what I'm saying? And so when we add the whole issue of your disability, uh, I'm sure that that has brought you some trials and tribulations, even in the way other people look at you and other people may treat you. Can you tell us something about that?
Yes, there were a lot of times I would go out to the restaurants or to Walmart, and people would stop and look at you as if they never seen a person in the wheelchair in their life.
Yeah.
Um, and me being the person that I am and the outgoing person that I am, I'm not just gonna stare at you. I'm gonna speak to you because just as well as you staring at me, I'm gonna stare at you back. But I got the love of God, and I'm not gonna act how you're acting. I'm gonna be polite to you, and I'm gonna tell you, "Hello, how are you?" And then a lot of them, when I speak, they're like, "Oh, they have this certain look on their face, like, oh, he talks."
Yeah.
But the first thing they see is the chair. So, yeah, they will look at me, weird and all crazy and everything. And then a lot of times, when I would get up and I would preach or I would sing or whatever, they would be so shocked and they would be so amazed because they couldn't believe like he's really doing all of this. But this is why I always say, Dr. Brand, that you can't judge a book by its cover.
Mhm.
You can't.
Well, I think that's well said, and I really appreciate your openness about this, and and your sharing with us, because I think that your testimony really does say to other people, hey, that whatever I'm living with or whatever I'm struggling with, that I can believe God and I can trust God, uh, for 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 my support and my guidance, because the Lord does not withhold from us those good things. That becomes a part of our challenge. So tell us a little bit more now about your ministry experiences. What are some of the things that you have done in ministry since God has called you to this great work?
Wow. Are you talking about from the singing aspect or just preaching or just
All of it. That's a part of your call.
wow? Well, in 2015, I had the opportunity to sing the national anthem at Comerica Park.
Wow. Okay. Great.
I want to say back in 2009 or 8. Um, this was around when I was like 11 or 10. I had the opportunity to open up for Kurt Franklin all the way in Sacramento, California.
Oh.
I won the Make a Wish Foundation, and I met him on a Friday afternoon, and he heard me singing everything, and this was not even part of the trip. He looked at me, he said, "You got to sing on stage at my." So I sung. I have had the opportunity to be in plenty of. I sang the national anthem at a lot of my school basketball games, and all of those kind of different things. I'm gonna say not last year, but the year before last, before the pandemic, I had the opportunity of being on Fox 2.
Okay.
Yes, and so I've just done a lot of amazing great things. The Lord has allowed me to start my own broadcast when the pandemic started, and I was able to bring it's called Inspiration with Yarnell Waller. And what it is I just bring different people on, and they talk about, you know, whatever it is that they have, or whatever, what it is that they have going on, and I just interview them. And I've had people on such as Kathy Taylor, Doradus Page, just different types of, you know.
All right. Well, that's great. What are you doing currently, in your ministry?
Well, I'm still preaching, I'm still singing, I'm still being faithful to my church. I attend Chief Cornerstone Church. My pastor is Pastor Philando Du, and I'm just still staying faithful. Um, Still working on my broadcast, doing what the Lord has called me to do. Things are coming up in the future that I'm very excited.
Okay. Well, we're definitely going to be talking about that because I want to know about that as well. Let me just enter into a whole other arena with you right now, and let me say to those of you who are listening and sharing with us, if you have questions, about ministry or, just comments that you'd like to share, be sure and put them in the comment section. And I see that numbers of you are already greeting us and all of that. So thank you so much for participating in this conversation, this entire experience this morning. I really do appreciate you. But of course, put any questions that you might have in as well, and we will look to address them as we come near the conclusion of our discussion. Now, Minister Waller, I have struggled, as most people have, with this pandemic. This whole idea of COVID-19, the way it hit, back in March of 2020, when it kind of blew up. We knew it started before then, but it kind of just shut things down, here in America and around us for a considerable amount of time, continuing to today, and we have no idea of where this whole thing is going. How do you interpret this whole idea of a world pandemic?
I feel some sort of mixed sense. I have a lot of mixed emotions about it. I feel in some way that God is trying to get a lot of our attention and wake us up and tell us He's not playing with us.
Mhm.
I feel bad for a lot of those that has lost loved ones. Um, but also at the same time, again, I really believe that God is trying, He was trying, still is trying to get a lot of our attention. Um, One of the things he took away, Dr. Branch, as you know, was the church.
Mm-hmm.
And you know me being the church boy that I am, I was like, wait a minute, like, how is this going to work? But that's when I really realized, we often hear it say, you say it all the time. You can praise God anywhere. You can bless God anywhere. And I took that as a moment and an opportunity and a time that God was just really showing us, like, hey, are you really praising me for real? What was your praise real? Or was it just a show? Because if your praise is for real, you gonna praise me no matter if you in a sanctuary or if you at your house.
Mm-hmm.
And now I believe that that time would just really had to prove that to God. You just really had to show him that, like, I'm for real.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you interpret so let me just kind of feed back to you what I'm hearing you say is you interpret this pandemic as God's speaking to us and
Yes,
God getting our attention.
yes,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And
Tell me more. Tell me more.
yeah, I don't think he's playing. God is never playing with us, but sometimes he has to really do something to really get our attention. You know how sometimes your as you growing up, your parents, you might hear your parents say, you know, I'm not playing with you. Don't
Yeah.
do that. Or you only get one more warning. Don't try. And we still want to test the waters and we still want to try. And your parents have to tell you, okay, I warned you. Uh, Now you're still gonna do it. Now you have to suffer the consequences. And so I think that is the same way, with God. And if we call God our Father, and as we look at Him as a Father, and we call Him our dad, we have to treat Him as such. We have to respect Him.
Mhm. Yes, yes, indeed, yes, indeed. So how have worship been for you during the pandemic?
How has worship been for me during the pandemic? Wow. I've been spending a lot of quality time with Him.
Okay.
Very important quality time, constantly praying and praying and praying and just talking to him, letting him know how much I appreciate him, how much I love him. We often tell a lot of people all of those things often, but we don't take the time out to fully just let him know. Yeah, we might thank him when he wake us up, and we might thank him even when we go to bed at night. But this pandemic allowed me to really lot of time with him and just really, really just let him know, hey, I love you, I appreciate you, because you didn't have to do it. You are the waymaker, you are the provider. You didn't let me get COVID. God, I thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm. So turn in another page, and I do appreciate all of those comments that you've shared on the this whole world pandemic. We all trying to wrestle our way through this and trying our best, to make some godly sense of all of this. But let me turn the page once again. You know, uh, uh, while I pastored, of course, I'm retired now, but while I pastored, I invited you to come to Third New Hope Church and to preach. And man, you came, you preached, and you set us on fire. So let me thank you for that. But let me ask you, how do you go about developing sermon ideas? How do you prepare sermons, and what is your goal or your thinking as you prepare for preaching?
well, first of all, let me thank you for that opportunity as well. And I meant to bring that up to you when you asked me what is some of the things that you've done in your ministry and one of the biggest highlights. And I want you to know publicly that that was a big highlight for me. I never preached in front of in front of a congregation that big in my life. So I want to thank you publicly and tell you, man of God, I will never forget you for that.
Well, bless you, bless you.
And so for me to answer your question, for me, I think it's my thing is when you're getting ready to go in front of God's people, it's not your people, it's about Him.
Yeah.
Always want to make sure that I'm pleasing Him. So I always ask Him, God, what is it that you want your people to hear this time? You give me the word, because after all, you called me to do it. I didn't call myself. You
Hmm.
called. So what is it that you want your people to hear for this hour and time? Not what Yarnell want to talk about, but what do you want your people to hear?
Hmm.
You know.
And so, how does the Lord answer, and how do you respond to the Lord's answer?
Wow, how does he answer? He'll give me signs. See, you have to pay close attention to your signs.
Hmm.
And he'll give you different signs in a way, because there are times you can go and you can prepare a sermon, you can do all of that, and then it just hits you, and you could be reading that and going over that, and he'll lay a whole nother sermon on you out of that, and that's not even the one that you even thought about preaching, but he'll lay something else on top, you know what I'm saying, on you
Yeah, yeah.
as you're reading that. So you, it's important that you pay attention to the signs. And then always, I want to say this to the associate ministers, anybody that's in ministry and you're under a pastor, always be in line with your pastor's vision.
Mm.
Always want to make sure that you are in line with your pastor's vision. You never want to go ahead of yourself as an associate minister, because you're not the pastor. So you always want to make sure that you are in line, because you don't want God to be upset at you, you want your pastor to be upset at you. So you never want to go ahead of yourself. Always make sure you pay close attention to the vision that the pastor has.
Hey, listen, you all hearing it right here. You're hearing it out of the mouth of Reverend Yarnell Waller. You know that this is just so important, and I think that you have really said something that ministers need to hear, especially associate ministers. Um, that hey, you want to be sure that you're in line, that you are, are following protocol and all of that, but at the same time honoring the direction that God has for you to go, that the Lord has for you to go. So with that, Minister Waller, tell me a little bit about your mentors and those who pour into your life and who inspire you. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Dr. Branch, I've never fully had someone, like to push the preaching out specifically, like someone just constantly on me. I think throughout my career it was just really just me and God. But I looked up to different people per se, but I wouldn't say that they were kind of like mentor, but I looked up to um one of them is my uncle. He's dead and gone now. Dr. Pastor Jordan of the Let Them Come Missionary Baptist Church.
Hmm.
To him for so many years. And he has had a great impact upon my life. And so, just different people. Dr. Dorinda Clark Cole.
Okay.
She is my artist. She is my preacher. Um, I look up to her so many ways. And even before I had the opportunity to actually tell her, I've just looked up to her for just so many years. And so, yes, it's been different people that just, that I've just admired and I just looked up to.
Okay. So what is it that you feel that you receive from those names you mentioned, Dr. Jordan and from Dorinda Clark Cole? What is it that you feel you receive from them?
Wow, what is it that I receive from them? Well, Dr. Cole, for one thing, when she goes behind the mic, she's gonna give it everything she got,
Yes, indeed.
as if it is her last time. She's gonna preach like the girl, and she's gonna make sure that she preaches God. That is her main focus. Um, what do I get from Dr. Jordan? Is to always keep it pushing, always keep it moving, no matter what. Always do what you have to do and just keep it going
Hmm.
and stay true to what it is that you do.
I have a brother um, who almost every conversation that I have with him, my older brother, he before we end that conversation, he said to me, he said, "Now listen," he said, "Now you just keep on preaching." I mean, that's what he would tell me. He said, "Just keep on preaching." And I always assure him, "Hey, I'm gonna keep on preaching as long as there's breath in my body." And I said, and even if I lose my voice and ability like that, I said, then I just have to write it down and pass it out. So, so because I'm gonna keep on preaching. What is it? What is it that keeps you preaching? What is it that keep you committed to this whole idea of ministry? I think that's a big question I want to ask, even some of those that are listening
Hmm.
to us, what is it that actually keeps you committed to this gospel ministry?
Because I know that I meant this. It's simple for me. I know that I was meant to do this. You know, you know the ones that are hard to do it, and you know the ones that they were called to do it. And the ones that are called to do it, yes, it's gonna be some bumpy roads. You're gonna have some ups and downs, but you're not gonna just shut it down and just leave it alone. And I'm fully committed to this thing. And my biggest focus that keeps me going, Dr. Branch, I want that bigger reward at the end of all of this.
Mm,
Because God is not gonna ask me, I don't believe he's gonna ask me, well, how many people got on your nerves? How many people upset at you? So the first thing he said is, did you do everything I told you to do?
yeah.
Because he got to talk to the other people, so he's not talking to them right now. He's talking to me.
Hmm.
So that's my main focus of just realizing, like, hey, I want to get that bigger reward at the end, and I know that that need to hear the word of God, and God don't give the gift to everybody. So I know that I meant this, and so that's what keeps going.
Hmm. Well, wonderful, wonderful. The whole idea of living a life that you believe is on purpose,
Yes.
and fulfilling is so important, in anybody's life, So, what is it about ministry that fulfills you, that actually, uh, gives you something to hold on to as a sense of purpose and all that? What is it about ministry that does that for you?
Wow. It. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. It just something just amazing. And when I get that mic in my hand, Dr. Branch, whether if I got a mic or whether I'm just talking on the phone, anytime that I get to talk about the goodness of the Lord and what He can do, how He can turn your life around how we can make a way. Anytime that I tell anybody, it's like a body experience for me.
Okay.
It takes me to a whole another level. When I was coming up as a kid, I'm only 25 years old, but when I was coming up, um, I would tell people all the time I wasn't able to play on the playground like the other kids are running around, obviously, but I would tell them, I would say, being behind that mic is my
Mm-hmm.
that playground, and still to this day, that's where I get my relief. That's what really is to me. That's how it just makes me feel happy. It's my comfort zone. It just
Great. Oh, wonderful. That is good to know, and I am just delighted to hear you say that, with your own mouth, that ministry is that for you. That's and I think that's important because I find a great deal of fulfillment in ministry. And of course, I live to preach, because the whole thing, a lot of times I jokingly say, but yeah, but I'm serious too, that in many cases, no matter what's going on in life, just give me the mic, you know.
know what, Dr. Burns. Let me say this too. I want to let the people know out there too that is watching today that you have to know how to separate ministry from a career and fame. You
Hmm.
can't go in it look at it like that, because ministry and a career is separate. It's a total separate thing, because there are times in ministry that somebody's gonna make you upset. There are times in ministry you're not gonna always get an offering. There are times in ministry that your name is not gonna always be called. You're not always gonna be set up to do this or set up to do that. You have to know that ministry and fame are two separate things. So don't ever look at your ministry as a fame for you to try to be popular or famous. It's not about that.
Yeah, well, hey, that's great advice. That's great advice. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right, what I want to do now, Minister Waller, is that I want to focus in on some of the questions and comments that people are placing in the comments section. And so, one of the questions that Katie Hunter raises: do you think people get called to preach in their older age? Even though you ran for a long time from an early age, my question. So, what do you think about that? What do you think about being called so young yourself? And then do you think that God calls people in their older years?
Absolutely. I think that God can use us who he chooses to use. And it's not a specific age on it. It's never too late. It's early. He uses who you want to use. I mean, look at the age that Jesus started preaching.
Yeah,
So no, I think that if you're truly called and you know that you're called, the best thing for you to do is answer that call, and your main support at that time is God. If he brought you to it, he's gonna walk with you through.
yeah, yeah. I remember a lot of the advice that was given to me in my early years. I was called to preach. Well, probably I was about 15, 16 when I was called to preach, but I really acknowledged a call to preach at around 16 years old. But I was not licensed in ministry until I was 18. Um,
Wow.
I was I preached my initial sermon and I was licensed to preach at 18 years old. So I was, very young. As a matter of fact, I really started, some time back, looking at the large numbers of pastor preachers who started very young, and all of that, and I really felt, uh, as we say, some kind of way, about being called into ministry so young. But then I began pastoring Third New Hope when I was 23 years old. I was just 23 years old when I became the pastor of Third New Hope. And of course, all of these many years, over 40 years later, looking back at it, there's probably no way that I could have put in this number of years had I been called later. However, I want to say to that particular question about age is that the Bible teaches us, and I'm gonna be when I get into the book of Proverbs, which in the book of Ecclesiastes. I'm in Proverbs now. When I get in the book of Ecclesiastes with our teachings coming up, um, I'm going to be talking about that whole thing of remember thy creator in the days of thy youth, while evil days draw not nigh, and all those kind of things. But I want to say to any person that regardless of what your age, that as long as you are here, God has a purpose for your life,
That's it.
and that whether or not you were obedient to the call of God in your earlier years, you know, if you as long as you're breathing, it's not too late. It is not too late to yield to God and to let God use you. I was blessed as a pastor, even as a young pastor, to work with numbers of older people who came into ministry. I had around me a good number of older people, people who are called into ministry later in life or who acknowledge their call into ministry later in life. And God can use us once we yield ourselves to his hand, and it's just that simple. So I would say to anyone, God is not concerned about our ages. God is concerned about our yielding of ourselves to him and allowing ourselves to be used by God, because God can use any of us at any of the stages in our lives.
Yeah.
So there was another question, directly to you, uh, Reverend Waller. How do you know when you're called to preach? What is a sign from God?
You have to, first of all, you have to be in a place to where you can hear him. You can have everybody here and everybody telling you this and that and the third, but you have to be in the place to where you can hear. And not only you have to where you hear him, you have to be in a place to where you can honestly listen. You have to be in a place to where you can pay attention to the signs. And God will show you. He'll talk to you and he'll show you. And he'll give you different signs in different areas and different show you that hey, this is what I called you to do. You just have to make sure that you're in that place where you're paying attention to him. Hope that answers.
All right, I think that's a good answer. I think one of the things, is to how let's I'm going to say this very carefully, but I think that uh numbers of those who are called of God will be able to identify with what I'm about to say,
Yes, sir.
is that you have to be able to live with your certainty about your call and also live with your doubts.
Wow.
Yeah, because we are not going, some there are going to be some days we're going to be saying, I know the Lord called me, I know I'm called
Yeah,
of God and all that.
yeah,
But there are going to be some other days you're going to be asking yourself, did the Lord really, you know, did the Lord really call me? Did I really hear God's voice? Did I really see those signs? You know, so we got to live with that certainty, but we got to also live with the doubts that we carry, and the doubts do not erase the certainty no
mm-hmm.
more than the certainty erases the doubts. Now,
Yes.
I could write a whole book about that,
Oh
but
yeah,
that's where we live. We live in that tension between certainty and doubt, because some days we feel so called of God,
yes.
And then other days we wonder not only if we are called, but why in the world would the Lord, even
And
call the likes of us?
yep, and you know what too, Dr. Branch? I think a lot of us too, um, we feel that, you know, some of us have messed up and we might be feeling like it's hard to preach, but we might feel like, we have so much in our past that God used a person like me because I've done so much. And I'm here to tell you, if he called you to it, he don't care what you got. 'Cause let's be truthful. He already know what you did
That's
before
right.
what you're gonna do. He knew what you did. So if he called you to do it, he knows what he's doing with you. He don't care what you did. So you need to set up under the rug too and tell yourself, hey, let me just do what he called me to do. It doesn't matter about that.
Yeah. I mean, and the truth is that a lot of times when we're standing in that pulpit preaching, we are preaching as hard to ourselves as we
Yes,
are to other people. The preacher is, I think that is one of the definitions of the word as a two-edged sword.
yes, yes.
Yeah, because it cuts going and coming. It cuts. I mean, we're trying to tell other people how to live, how to build their faith, how to remain strong in the Lord, how to live upright, and all those kind of things. But we got to hear that for ourselves as well, because hey, we aren't all of that. Even though God uses us as an instrument to say it, it isn't like we're the models for it all the time.
That's right.
We want to do as best we can, and of course there's no excuse for or justification for us preaching one thing and living something lesser than that. However, we got to know that hey, if I had to be perfect on everything that I preached, I wouldn't have very much to say, because it. But the truth is the truth, regardless of us, and we have to proclaim that truth regardless of ourselves.
And we were never meant to be perfect. We None of us, and I'm talking about preachers as well as the person that's not in the pulpit. We were never meant. Nobody is perfect, but God called, and I believe He calls us to tell about somebody that is perfect,
Yeah,
and that
that's right. That is right. Here's another question that is directed to you, Reverend Yarnell. How did affirmation, confirmation from others impact your acceptance of the call?
you know what? For me, I would say I never really to that many people and said, "Hey, God, call."
Hmm.
I went to my mother, to the reading coach, and to my pastor at that time. So I can't really answer that question because I didn't go to a lot.
Hmm.
That wasn't my focus at the time. Focus was, let me go get the help that I
Okay. Okay.
let. Let me make sure that God is really talking to me. Um, and let me talk it over with my mother. Out of those people, of course, they were very supportive. So I didn't really had shut down areas with that.
Okay. Well, that I think that you are saying something very important there, because you went to those people who were pouring into your life at that time, and
Yes,
those individuals they affirmed your call and they supported you. Is that what you're saying?
yes, and the reason I would say that, Dr. Branch, is because, and this is just me talking. Everybody is not going to accept what you do.
Right. Oh yeah.
Everybody is not going to look at you and say, "Oh, yeah." They're not going to agree with that. But you have to realize too. that it's not for them to accept the calling because God wasn't talking to you.
Yeah.
That's between you and God. And people, if you allow to have the power over you, they will knock you down.
Hmm.
So you
Hmm.
gotta be careful who you share that kind of information with.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that is so important. Well, our time is coming down to an end, but I want you to just take 30 seconds or to yeah, to just share with us anything that we may have missed or anything that you want people to know or to hear from you before we come to a close.
Yes, I would just like people to know and just to understand that no matter what you go through in life, God is still faithful, still able to bring us forget in 2050. I didn't want to be in here. I didn't want to be on the earth anymore. Yes,
Mm,
church, me myself. I told God it was so hard for me. I I wanted to do some of the things that the other teenagers were doing. I wanted a relationship. I wanted all of that stuff, and I just didn't understand. It took me when I reached my older age, start asking questions like, "Why did you do this to me?" And I got to the point, I don't want to be here anymore. But God told me, He said, "I'm using you. I brought you here for a purpose." So I want to talk to that person right now that's dealing with that low self-esteem, that's dealing with that depression. You have to understand that you are called and chosen by God. And I want to make this clear. We got to stop putting ministry and gifts and talents in a box.
mm,
Whatever God called you to do, it may not be preaching, it may not be, but whatever He called you to do it. Other people might not agree with you, but do it. We got to stop putting ministry in a box, and you got to walk into your calling and walk into your destiny.
Wow, you have said a mouthful. I mean, and I really appreciate that and appreciate all that you have brought to this conversation, to this particular experience. And hey, guess what? We're gonna have to do this again. We have to
Yes,
do this
sir.
again because there's still so many areas that we could not cover, in 1 hour. But listen, I want you to just continue to hang in there and and be faithful and trust God and continue blessing the lives of other people the way that you've been doing it. And just know this, that we are here for you. We're here to support you and we believe in you. And so Minister Yarnell Waller, God bless you, man. I
Yes,
love you and I appreciate you. And we're looking forward to even more out of you, knowing that God is still, uh, taking care of you and keeping his arms all around you.
yes, sir. Bless you, man. God. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you. Let's close with a word of prayer. God, we thank you for this amazing experience. Thank you for this man of God. Thank you for his commitment, his dedication. Thank you for the brilliance of his testimony. Because we know, God, when we let our light shine, that is so that people could see your glory. So, God, I know that you receive glory out of his life, out of his ministry, out of his work. So, God, I pray that you just keep him in every way, keep him strong, and keep him faithful to you and to your word. We pray for all of those who are sharing with us on today, and we pray, God, that you would heal, deliver, set people free. I pray, God, that you would liberate the oppressed. I pray that you would lift bowed heads and mend broken hearts. I pray that you would give ease to troubled minds. God, I pray that you would just be with us and keep us in every way, and we'll give you the glory, honor, and praise for it all. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. God bless you, and thank you so much. And thank all of you for sharing with us on today. And we'll look forward to even more conversations like this in the future. God bless you. Make it a great day.